Hey, everybody. Thank you for tuning in to another episode of the Church Leadership Lab podcast. Our goal on this podcast is conversations that help empower healthy churches. And so we talk to people across a spectrum of things that build into, help, and support churches, church leaders, pastors, ministries. And so we're excited to have another conversation today to bring to you. Before we do that, my name's Scott. I am one of your hosts, and this is Casey, your other host. Hello,
Hi,
Casey.
how are you, Scott? You always ask me, how are you?
Thank you. I'm doing excellent. We're recording, we're having this conversation. It's about fall. So I don't know when people are listening to this, but anytime fall kicks in, it's just, to me, it's the most wonderful time weather-wise in the Chicago area. It's just gorgeous. You get that kind of fall crisp weather, and it makes my heart so happy. So that's how I am right now.
So beautiful. We need to send that to like your local, what is it? The Better Business Bureau of Chicago. That was a beautiful commercial.
Little advertisement. Yes. So that's how I am. How are you?
I'm good. Here, it's not quite as lovely as it is for you. I'm in Oklahoma. So we get it's similar. From what I know about Chicago, you're in this perfect little time before the death winter comes.
Yeah.
Oklahoma, it's just kidding. We're about to have third summer right when you think, I don't know. It's a beautiful moment where it might be lovely. It might be the heat of summer all over again. You never know.
Yeah. Well, yeah. And then you wear a hoodie somewhere and you're like, it's 95 degrees. What am I doing?
Right.
I get
Pretty
it.
much.
Yeah.
Why are you wearing a scarf?
Yeah. We get that once in a while here, but yeah. Well,
today's nice though.
Awesome. Excellent. We're doing good. We're in a good mood. I hope you're in a good mood listening to this. One of the things that we got to do recently is have some conversations in person with people at the Church Network conference, a conference that we love, that we were at. And we got to sit down with Alaina Butler, who is with Churches by Daniels. And Churches by Daniels, they're experts in all things church building construction. And so they serve churches by offering and coordinating services really for every phase of the building process. So from design to finance to actually building, staying within budget, they do all of that. And they've been doing this for churches since 1980. So they have a long history of serving the church through multiple seasons, generations. I know one of the things that we talked to Alaina about was the red carpet. I think it was the red carpet, right? That it seemed like every church ever in the 90s had. And so just a little teaser for you folks, that was part of the conversation, but it's one of those things. I mean, church facility, they're unique, right? They have certain needs, and yes, it's a gathering space, but, there's kind of so much that goes into it. So really talking to somebody about, how do you think about a building? When's the right time for a building? What are the things that you should consider and really think about? I thought it was a really helpful conversation.
Yeah. They are my neighbors. Churches by Daniels are right here in good old Broken Arrow, Oklahoma. And I learned in real time that they built my church. And that was a happy little accident. Had no idea until then.
See?
So thanks, TCN.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. And it is kind of cool, right? To have that conversation and to then be like, oh yeah, I've actually seen your work because I see it all the time.
Every weekend. Well done.
Yeah, that's fantastic. So again, we had a great conversation with Alaina. We think it's going to be helpful for you. So without further delay, here is our conversation with Alaina Butler from Churches by Daniels. Alaina, thanks so much for taking the time to be with us on Church Leadership Lab. Appreciate it.
Thank you for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
Yeah. All right. First question we usually ask all of our guests. What's something that doesn't make the public bio that all your friends and family would know about you?
Oh, wow. Something that doesn't make the public bio. I have a lot of plants in my house.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Okay.
And in my office.
What are we talking here? Like succulents? Are
All
we
of
talking
them.
like
All
spider
everything but
plants?
succulents, actually. I cannot keep a succulent alive to save my life.
Oh.
Monsteras, which apparently are a little more fussy, I can keep alive all day.
Aren't succulents like pretty easy to keep alive?
Supposedly.
I'm really not.
Supposedly.
2 minutes into the podcast, one minute, I'm not trying to insult your plant skills.
Yes, you are.
But
Very offensive.
Come on. No, yes.
I had
Killed
a
a
succulent.
succulent.
Did you?
Yeah, I did.
It's so easy with overwatering.
Well, there
It's
you
so
go.
easy.
Turns out you do have to water them.
Right, turns out.
Yeah.
Let that be a warning,
Yes.
ladies and gentlemen.
Save your succulents.
You absolutely can kill them.
Careful of overwatering. I had a succulent once that grew like a palm tree. I learned it was not supposed to. My wife saw it. She's
Turns
like,
out.
it was at a co-working space. It was on my desk.
Yes.
And she saw it. She's like, honey, it's not supposed to look like that. And I was like, but it looks awesome. And I kept it alive for a long time, but it just grew taller and taller and then it died.
That's
So,
amazing. Other plants that I have, like I have a snake plant that flowered, and they only do that if they are incredibly happy. So
that's a sign.
I was just like,
of your
why
plant
are there
skills.
flowers all over this? It doesn't belong on a snake plant.
Yeah.
And looked it up, and they're like, oh, it's happy. I was like, okay.
Well done. I love it.
Yay me! I didn't know that was a thing.
Yeah. Well, despite how we could probably talk about plants ongoing, we're not going to do that. We're going to talk about facilities, church buildings, all things that I know you all specialize in and do just amazing work in. But what I'd love to start with is just talk about, obviously a lot in the church has changed just in ministry
Yeah,
over
absolutely.
the last few years, last few decades, all of that. Specifically, what have you seen as you all have worked with churches in facilities, design trends, like things like that? What have you seen that's been changing, shifting, and maybe what, is ahead for the future?
So one of the biggest things that's been changing, and across the board, not just for churches, but definitely is showing up in the church sphere, is technology in ministry. I mean, we all know that technology is changing so quickly.
Yeah.
One of the big ways we're seeing it show up for ministries and for churches is in building automation systems.
Ooh, interesting.
So in building automation systems, it's kind of the idea, like we have smart homes, right? So for instance, I can arm my security system from my phone. I can turn down my thermostat from my phone.
To make sure the plant's happy.
To make sure the plants are happy,
obviously.
yes. Wouldn't want them to die while I was at TCN.
Exactly.
So I can do so many things. Some people can turn lights on and off from their phone.
Yeah.
There's so much of that we can do in our houses, and it translates in a much larger sense to a church where people that are on staff can do all of this from an iPad.
Yeah.
And it will translate even to safety, where it's alerting you, so this door was left open, or fire suppression is becoming an increasing part of building automation. And in safety, that aspect of it has just taken off.
Yeah.
And so a lot of churches, as they're building either new churches or they're renovating or just expanding, they're incorporating that aspect of technology, which is a little boring. Like the interesting aspect of technology, of course, is the big LED walls and the lights and the stage setups, which we're also seeing, become so popular with more churches than just the contemporary ones.
Yeah.
But also translating into more practical application as well.
Yeah. Well, I know we were talking just a little bit ago about some of what you're seeing as well with kind of repurposing, renovating, churches that are maybe moving into buildings that are, they're making that weren't built for a church. Are you seeing that stuff as well? Are people even moving into churches that maybe have, closed or something like that? And,
Absolutely.
And it was built in the 50s and
Absolutely.
now we need to,
Absolutely. We're seeing both.
Okay.
So the benefits of purchasing an existing structure, so like we were talking about earlier, is the idea of retrofitting, is the idea of taking something and modifying it to something that it wasn't originally designed for.
Right.
So for instance, last year we retrofitted a Best Buy for Pastor Travis Green in Columbia, South Carolina. And so a Best Buy, that doesn't seem like a church. But we went in, and because of the existing infrastructure, he got the entire building and the property, the church did, for less than it would have cost us to put in the parking lot.
Wow.
And because it was a retail space, they had adequate parking, which is a huge issue in a lot of churches, and something to be so aware of. A standard ratio for business is 4 to 1. for parking. So for every 4 customers, you need a parking space. For churches, it halves actually. It's 2 to 1.
Okay.
And if you think about it, it's such a interesting thing to think about. But if you think about it, it's like you maybe arrive at church at a different time from your wife, and maybe eventually somebody has kids that are driving. So then one family can have 3-4 cars at church because they're serving in ministry. Somebody's in nursery, somebody's there for worship, practice early. And so you have to really think about boring things like parking, HVAC, but when you retrofit a building that has those things that are adequate, that can be used, you can save so much money in the long run.
Yeah.
And with the pre-existing churches, like you were saying, so you have a church that was built 60 years ago, you can go in and you can renovate and you can expand. There's a lot of ways you can keep the original cool old look of the church and still make it modern and contemporary. And again, get a really great church for less money than ground up construction.
But take out the red carpet.
Please take out the red carpet.
It's like an official PSA.
PSA, please no red carpet. I have red carpet PTSD.
Maybe you could give us insight. Was there a meeting years ago among
everyone got the memo? I've always wondered this.
I really think I actually have a theory that it was the cheapest color carpet to buy.
Oh, that makes sense.
And it was easy to get it heavily discounted because who in their right mind is putting red carpet in anything?
Well, it's very shocking. We now know a lot more about psychology.
Absolutely.
And we know about how colors affect our moods. And red evokes anger.
Yes. Very jarring. There's a reason that all those preachers were pulpit pounders is they looked at too much red carpet.
There's a whole thing. Somebody at the carpet company being like, wait, somebody wants the red?
They want the red? They want the red? In bulk?
Yeah.
They all want
Absolutely.
Somebody's
Absolutely. Discount. Get it out of here. Get it out of here. Absolutely. Yes. Please, you can pick it up tomorrow. Wonderful. It's all
Something
yours.
happened.
No
I'm sorry. I did not mean to take us.
No,
I'm sorry.
no,
That was definitely a trigger point.
No, that's absolutely something to think about. Okay, well, if I buy this old building, what does the carpet look like? And what am I going to have to do on that? So there's very practical things, but there's a lot of benefit to choosing an existing building. Our owner and founder, Charlie, that's his first point of recommendation is rent, buy, build.
Yeah.
When you are starting out a church, rent a building first, buy a building next, build a building last. He will tell you, he's like, what kind of builder tells you that?
Yeah.
He's like, but it's going to be so much better for your church in the long run, and it's going to give you that opportunity to grow your congregation without this oppressive debt from just jumping into a ground-up construction project right off the bat.
Like that's like the architectural equivalent of crawl, walk, run.
Yes, exactly. We got to do things in order.
Well, I'm sure I'm curious. I'm going to go back to this parking thing because it's not fun.
No, it's so dry.
I'm sure you guys get more excited about the design and the architecture.
Absolutely.
But with all this retrofit, like my church is in a shopping center.
Absolutely.
My church before that was a converted grocery store. So I that's kind of all I've known for my adult life.
Right.
I've never thought about the parking lot. So do you find yourselves now in the parking consultant business of these retrofits?
Yes.
When it's, this is not the fun design part,
right.
But do you now kind of have to help people with facility planning?
Absolutely, yes.
Especially now you have multiple services, right?
Yes.
You're turning the parking lot, just like turning the tables at a restaurant.
Absolutely. And so that's one of the initial things that we do, like long before people are even technically clients. A lot of times we'll just show up to a piece of property they're looking at, take a look at it, be like, okay, well, we need to talk about this. You need to think about this. The parking is the situation. Like the church that I go to now is an old church that they purchased and they've updated, and it's lovely, but the parking is a huge problem.
Yep.
And so we're trying to expand it. We're trying to figure out how we can do a lot, but we're in a neighborhood. There's not a lot of room for us to spread out.
There's only so much you can do.
And so every time there's a service turnover, it's an issue because people are coming and going. And the reality of it is, for a church that is community-minded and outreach-minded, is that if you are trying to get a guest inside the door, they will not wait for a parking spot.
Sure.
Yeah.
So it is something that we do. And again, like you said, it's not a fun conversation, but it is something that really has to be discussed and talked about early on. And so absolutely, education is kind of the first line of defense.
Yeah.
And that's one of the things that we really strive to do, is that a pastor can always call us with a question, no matter what.
Well, you said this, you said like the rent, buy, build philosophy. Like, I'm curious, what are maybe some of those questions that like you need to be thinking about this or at least asking yourself this. If somebody's listening to this and they're at that spot, they're like, okay, maybe we've been renting and we're at the point where, okay, we can buy, maybe we need to buy, we need to, like, what are some of those that church leaders should be asking as they're entering into this process?
Oh, that is such a great question. So what I would say is that when your building starts hindering your ministry growth, so for instance, parking, very boring, but you're out of room. You are 3 services, you're maxed out, you can't fit any more chairs in the doorway, the fire code is out the window.
We haven't even talked about fire code.
We haven't even talked about, I know, all the boring things.
Another fun topic.
It's so fun. I actually talked to a pastor the other day, he was just like, well, if we don't look at the fire code, we can fit this many people in the room.
At least he knows there is a fire code.
At least he knows that. At least he knows that.
I acknowledge that I'm ignoring something.
Exactly.
Good start.
It's intentional disobedience.
Right.
So I would say, you're bursting at the seams or you are just needing better, more functional space. If you're in a space that is not functional for the way you do ministry, like for instance, let's say they really have an emphasis on youth. Like their heart outreach is the youth in their community. They're trying to bring more youth in the door, but they have no room to put the youth.
Yeah.
It's time to have a real conversation about what do we need as a church? Where do we go from here to make our ministry, because every church has a different focus.
Sure.
And every church can have a different ministry, like heart of their ministry in their community or in their city or world even.
Yeah.
And okay, well, where is your focus? And is your facility building, not your church itself, but the church building, is it at a point where it can't grow anymore in that building? It's time to talk about buying or building.
Yeah.
Makes sense. I'm curious, I kind of want to go back to the technology piece for a second.
Absolutely.
When we're talking about trends that you're seeing, retrofitting, you mentioned the LED walls.
Yes.
A lot of what we do is digital engagement. So your website is your front door digitally, not your physical. So are there other trends that you're also seeing where people are now incorporating their digital presence into their physical building? We think about the stage. We think about the LED walls and the light bars. But what about like your lobby? Are you seeing trends incorporating, I don't know, tablet touchscreens and any type of digital things that are now coming into the physical space as well?
Absolutely. So a big part of that is children's security. Check-in stations, iPads, tagging the kids. We're seeing a massive amount of growth in that area, and it's so needed. It's so necessary. And it's a neat tag team of the physical building to where you got to think about entry and exit and where your check-in space is and how secure it is, but also the iPads checking in. We're seeing a lot of, in gathering spaces, there's maybe more things like you can sign up for Dream Team weekend, or you can sign up for kids camp in the foyer on the iPad and just go ahead and get that taken care of. Don't have to remember to do it outside or in the sanctuary on your phone or at home or anything like that. So absolutely, I think there's such a space there for that. And like you said, website presence. I think that's an underrated important first impression for everyone in general. You have 7 seconds to make a first impression, right? So for a church, they need to think about their website presence, I would say, their website presence and their parking lot. Like, are there weeds in the flower bed? Does it look terrible? Have you mowed the grass?
Well, I think
7 seconds. That's all we get.
But I think what's interesting about that is the way the facility and the physical space plays into that both impression, but also maybe the level of comfortability people have showing up somewhere. Like, I'll be honest, so we're recording this in Dallas area. Never been here. Never been.
I don't know how that's possible.
I don't know how that's possible.
I know. Well,
I feel like I've spent half my life going into or through Dallas.
First timer.
Welcome to Texas.
It is like the surface of the sun. So if anyone's wondering,
that's true.
It's a miracle I'm not sweating right now.
It's so hot.
But my point is, I went on to, maybe I'm strange in doing this, but like I was looking at Google Maps around like, what's around the hotel, the convention center, all that stuff. But I actually did drag the little guy onto the street, you know what I mean? And like walk down the street, because I was sort of like, I just want to know where I'm going. Like, I want to see it. And so that's I think it's really interesting to say, hey, your facility actually plays a role in helping people who are going to be there for the first time know, oh, that's the parking lot. That's what the front entrance looks like, whether it's a video, whether it's what,
Absolutely.
And I'm not saying you give maybe you do like a shot by shot. Here's the
Absolutely.
experience. But that I see those really pairing together.
So cool.
To welcome people.
I love that. Absolutely. And theming is a big part of that.
Yeah.
So Church on the Move, they have their kids section with a big glass thing and a big, huge playground in there.
Yeah.
You know where to take your kids.
Yeah.
You see bright colors, as a guest,
You're like,
my children go there.
Is that the pastoral counseling area?
Right, exactly.
Might be.
Exactly.
No,
It could be.
I wish it were.
It's for a different episode.
I do think that it's so important to be intentional and well thought out in how are people going to see my building for the first time. And I think you have to be really honest.
Yeah.
You have to walk halls. You have to be really, I don't want to say critical, but you do have to be very honest about what somebody on the internet checking out Dallas for the first time is seeing.
Yeah.
Well, we talked about that many episodes ago of visiting other churches and asking someone to come visit yours.
Yes.
And be brutally honest, like, bro, I couldn't find the bathroom.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And nobody wants to ask.
No.
You don't want to walk up
Exactly.
to somebody
That's
and be like, I'm sorry, where's the bathroom?
Yeah.
Sign it. I mean, all these things that we think are really obvious because we're
Yes.
in and out. I know exactly where my refrigerator in my kitchen. I know where my pantry is. Y'all may not be able to find my pantry.
Absolutely.
Because it kind of blends into the wall.
Yeah.
If you are a first-time guest at my church, I would want to clearly label that. So
Yes.
Signage and all those things.
Absolutely.
Y'all do it all.
here.
Yeah, food here.
Eat.
Yeah. Well, I think that brings up another question that I had, which is the advantages, and I'd love to hear your thoughts because I'm sure you've seen facilities, churches built by maybe contractors, companies, whatever, that are just like a Best Buy. They're maybe just commercial spaces. The people building those don't necessarily specialize in ministry. What's the advantage of going with a company like yours, or like where it's like, no, we specialize in building these types of spaces. We specialize in churches. I'm sure there's some things that are really that you bring to the table in that way.
That's such a great question. So I would say that a huge part of it is that we understand ministry. Almost everyone on our staff is a believer. Everyone on our staff goes to church. Almost all of us are involved in our church on some sort of level.
Yeah.
And it would be like it's not something I think that the outside world can understand in the same way.
Yeah.
In that we walk up and we're going to have to talk to a whole building committee who's making decisions. So-and-so doesn't, Miss Janice, she doesn't like this carpet, but Mr. Sam, he doesn't like this color, and you have to, there's so much to navigate in a church because this is not just a building. This is not an office. This is our church home.
Yeah.
And this is where we worship the Lord. And so there's such an element of, this is our second home. Yeah. There's such an emotional tie to it. And also finances are such a huge part of it. We're not building, an arena with an AT&T budget, an AT&T arena downtown. We're not building that. We're building this off. They've tithed and they've worked and they've done the legacy giving and all of this, and they have this much money. If we go over budget, it's a problem. Yeah. And that's why we do design, build, construction, because we kind of flip it a little bit. We take the budget, we do a needs assessment.
Okay.
What do you need as a church? What do you want as a church?
Yeah.
And we take all of that, we figure out what you can afford as a church, and we design an entire plan, sometimes a master plan. We sometimes phase it out into different phases to save money and figure out, okay, well, here's how you can get there. Yeah. And here's how you can get the maximum amount for what you have without sacrificing, having to go back to your church time and time again. Guys, we need more money. It's, the gray carpet's more than the red, And so,
as it should be.
Right, as it should be. But, that is a different element that I don't think commercial construction, they maybe could understand it, but they don't have the same experience that we do.
Yeah. Well, sorry, go ahead.
No.
Well, I was just going to say, it's sort of like you're both I think of a retail space, right? We've talked about Best Buy.
Yeah.
There's both, I'm sure they have consultants who can come in and say, I know retail spaces and I know how they should work and function and look and be set up and all of that stuff.
Yes.
And then they also have people to hire to build it and to do it. It seems like the advantage is you get all of that together.
Absolutely.
So I can both, you can both say, here's the why, here's the questions, here's, and also we can do it.
Absolutely. Yeah.
I was going to tell you, you talked about building in phases. I worked at a church in Nashville where we took over an old movie theater.
Oh.
And everyone in that community knew that movie theater. And like you couldn't walk in and not almost smell
the popcorn,
the 70s stale popcorn.
Sure, yeah.
Like, you can't get that out.
No.
It's not getting out of the carpet. Yeah.
But like some of us got to go and like rip up the old, and like they were old. I will never forget this. There was a movie ticket from Casper.
Oh my gosh.
So like taking, I was like,
great movie.
That's been here for a minute. But my whole point, the whole lobby, it was done in phases.
Yes.
There were these actual walls built up, and it was just in the center. It was the auditorium, the lobby, and a few kids spaces, but it was very communicated from day one. Eventually, the goal is to fill this whole building, but we don't need that yet. That's not where we are today. So it was helping understand the long-term goal or vision.
Yes.
But also, hey, we're being good stewards. So we're not doing that today.
Absolutely.
Because we can't and we shouldn't, and we're going to do this well with cash up front. So what you're going to see is this, but then phase 2 is this. So we kind of knew, and it was exciting to like know which theater is going to go next. And like, there was memory and nostalgia tied to that, but really good communication. But that was I forgot about that until you're like, phases. But, ooh, the movie theater. That was a wild one.
We did have phases. And I think, like you said, that's so important. That keyword is vision. And vision casting that, whatever your project looks like to your church, because here's the deal. Construction is not fun.
No.
It is messy. There are delays. There is rain. Sometimes you have to pour concrete twice. This is not fun. But like the Bible says, put the vision in front of you. Keep it in front of you.
Yeah.
And you have to, that's so important. And I think that also is just, even for you, like if I was talking to that church, I'd be like, hey, maybe put some of those renderings for the future vision on the website.
Absolutely.
Maybe remind people every once in a while, have a party once a year, a fundraising. Like we're going to have a carnival, drive-in movie theater themed or something like that. And be like, okay, all the tickets are going to, remember, this is what we're doing. We're going here. Right. And it helps keep people engaged. It helps them from getting discouraged, because it could be discouraging to be like, oh my gosh, will we ever get there?
Yeah. Because we've never seen it. We don't know that it's real.
Right, exactly.
Yeah. It's the promised land that doesn't exist yet.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know.
Yeah. And you're like,
never seen it.
But it's coming. It's coming. It's coming.
No, that's really good. Well, one question that we ask everybody who's on our podcast, our goal is conversations that empower healthy churches. So we'd love to hear the thoughts of our guests. What's one component? What would you say was one essential component of a healthy church?
Oh, that's very good. I would say communication. I think that's so important. I think that church has grown into a space where there's more facility for communication across the board.
Yeah.
And I think we're seeing that in a physical space, in the gathering space, this trend, where we are setting up foyers. They're not foyers anymore. They're like living rooms.
Yeah.
And we're encouraging and fostering a spirit of community and conversation across the board. But I know for my church, they're very communicative to us as well as the congregation. I'm not on staff. I volunteer, but that's about it. Like, so I'm down here on the totem pole, but they're still very communicative about what's going on. And I think that's just so important for health. And like I said, a church is like a family. And so in a family, somebody talks to so-and-so, and somebody talks to so-and-so. I mean, every family has a little drama. Right. So, like, then you get a whole story that's not even true. And I think opening the lines of communication, I think, is just so important for health across the board in any relationship, but specifically in the church.
Yeah.
It's really good.
Yeah.
Are we heading to the final 5? Because I have one last question.
We'll allow it.
And I don't want to put you on the spot or make you speak ill of the church, but is there a modern version of the red carpet? Is there a trend today that you wish everyone would be like, please stop doing that?
Ooh, yikes.
If that puts people on Front Street, you can pass.
We have to remember that it's personal opinion. We just have to remember that it's personal opinion. Oh gosh.
You do not have to name names.
There is a trend across the board in all construction, I'm seeing, in housing, in churches, where it's very monochromatic. And it's very like white walls, gray carpet, black finishes.
Harsh.
And very harsh. And I feel like it is so hard to know who you are as a church if your building is not somehow communicating your brand to me.
Yeah.
Like, I don't want to see, like, it's fine. And if it has to be that way, that's great. But throw some color on the wall, please, for the love of heaven. Like, have someone paint a mural, have something. Like, even just in the kids' space. Be you. Yeah. I would love to see, and I see some churches doing this so well, where there's branding is very clear, very well communicated, very warm. And I love that. And some other churches are just like, oh, yes, we're going all in on this black and white trend. And I'm just like, okay. But I'm also ready for it to leave the housing market as well.
Yeah,
like,
sure.
you know,
And,
and some of them look cool, but like, I'm a little tired of white houses with black trim. That's an opinion.
Yeah.
That's an opinion.
That's fair.
I like it. It's
That's
good.
fair.
That's awesome.
So sorry.
No, that's okay.
It was really curious.
But I do actually think that it's such an easy fix. Throw in a couple of different colored chairs into your foyer.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, it's a little bit warmer.
Yeah.
So if you've had it and you're just like, I'm so tired of this, it is throw in a plant.
Yeah.
Like, even
call
if it's
you
a fake,
and get all of your
call me
plants.
and take here. I've got plants
plenty
because
of
I've more than I need, and so I'll just give you one.
That's awesome.
So yeah.
That's perfect.
That's good. All right, we're going to jump into our final 5. These are rapid fire.
Okay.
First one book that you'd recommend to church leaders.
Oh, wow. You know, I have not read this book in probably 20 years, but one of the most impactful books I ever read was a biography about Darlene Diebler Rose, and it was called Evidence Not Seen.
Okay.
And it was about her time as a missionary in Japan and eventually in a concentration camp in World War II.
Wow.
And it was an incredible book. And I don't know that I can ever read it again emotionally. But to remember what people have gone through and sacrificed for the gospel that sometimes we're just I'm very casual about. As an American, you know, in 2023, I can be very casual about. And it's just a reminder of what people have sacrificed so that the world can have the gospel. And just the importance of it.
That's really good.
Yeah.
I don't think I could remember a title of a book I read 20 years ago.
No, I don't think I could either. Outsiders.
It was
The
Outsiders.
Great book.
It was filmed in my town, you know?
Do you know
I'm
that?
from Tulsa.
There's a museum.
There's a whole
in
museum.
our home.
What? I
Yes,
love that
we
book
can
and
go
movie.
to the house.
Yeah.
It's still there.
The Outsiders house is there.
we don't have the time, but man, can we talk about that cast of that movie?
Yes, we can.
Phenomenal.
Yeah.
Little off topic, but we'll bring you back.
Yeah.
Okay, number 2. What is the last thing you listened to? Spotify, Apple. Do you have a musical guilty pleasure?
I do. It actually was Spotify, and it was worship music on my drive in this morning, so I feel good about that.
Perfect.
But
good answer.
Yes, it was "Holy Forever" by Chris Tomlin.
All right.
Perfect.
Yeah.
And then I started crying in my car because, listen, I don't know. And then I was like, I gotta dry it up and go to work. I
have to go see people.
I have to
I
go
love it,
talk
though.
to people and get it
Yeah.
together, Butler. I just was overwhelmed by this idea that that's what we'll sing in heaven.
Yeah.
And I've some, you know, I know it was just like, oh man, that's gonna be so awesome. So
Please tell me that you yelled at yourself in your car. Get it together, Butler.
100%. I did. That's when I am annoyed at myself. It's a last name only basis.
Yeah.
Like Butler. I'm from a military
it.
family, so it's kind of
love
like that.
Yeah.
I'm my own drill sergeant.
Yeah.
But I do have a guilty pleasure. Whereas if I like a song or even an album, I will play it on repeat.
Burn it.
100 times
Yes.
straight.
I'm with you.
I'm
Yeah.
the same.
I don't know what that is, but I 100% will do that. And
Wear it out.
sometimes
Do it.
it's the Jonas Brothers.
That's
I don't know.
fair. That's okay.
I have a current jams playlist that's now not current because it goes back to like 2017.
Current to you, and that's all
Sure.
that matters.
I got a Jonas Brothers song in there.
Yeah.
For sure. But among others.
Yep.
But yeah, I do
Yep.
the same. It's like repeat.
Repeat and like, this is the mood. This is what I need to hear. Sometimes it'll be just one song.
Yeah.
And that's a
love it.
real issue. I'm like, I don't know that this is normal, but
It is,
I do
it
it.
is.
Okay,
Yeah,
okay.
yeah.
That's
You're-
reassuring to me.
yeah.
I've been
I'm
afraid
fine.
to ask.
No,
So
you're
I
good.
did not Google it.
Yeah.
I was just like, I don't need
Happy to.
I don't need to land on WebMD and they diagnose me with something.
Turns out.
Yeah. That's awesome.
That's awesome.
All right. What is your favorite piece of technology? Can't say your iPhone.
Oh, can't say my iPhone.
Or Android, just out of principle.
Okay, that's totally fair.
It's the only wrong answer.
Headphones count? Like Bluetooth headphones?
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh my gosh, I could not live without headphones. I have to have music
Do you
going
have a certain
all
like
times.
pair that you're like, this is...
I do. My favorite pair is my over-ear Beats that I
Yeah.
bought years ago. I splurged on with some Christmas money. But I also have just a pair of just like second generation AirPods.
Nice.
And it is not uncommon to see me with one in one ear at all times.
Yeah.
Even if it's not going, I'm just like, I just need access to music.
Yes, that's fair.
That's awesome.
Is there a piece of advice, some nugget of wisdom that has stuck with you all throughout the years? Quote, anything like that?
Oh wow, that is really good. One of the big ones I've had lately is if it's not going to matter in 5 years, don't spend more than 5 minutes worrying about it. I used to have a lot of chronic.
I like
a lot
that.
of like worry, and like I'd worry about things, and I'm really trying to reframe my perspective to it doesn't matter.
Wow.
And I think of things that used to upset me, and I'd get really upset or angry or anxious about, and they don't matter now. I can't even remember what they are. So sometimes when an issue arises, I'm just like, I can leave it. I cannot pick it up because it's not actually going to matter here soon.
Yeah.
So it feels like a lot right now, but it's by tomorrow it'll be gone and it'll be fine.
I like that.
Yeah.
So,
all right, last one. One thing you'd like to communicate to our audience of church leaders.
your audience of church leaders. I think that what you do is so important, and it's so vital. And I think burnout is such a real part of your life. And as somebody that has benefited time and time again from being able to go into a church building and be ministered to, just know that even on the days where it feels like you're drowning, everything you do makes a difference. And the functionality of it, it's not fun to talk about, but it also contributes to making a difference. And it's so valuable. And I don't know where I would be or who I would be without my faith. Yeah. And I would never want to find out. And there was a portion of my life where I was okay with God, but I wasn't in church. It wasn't like a huge rebellion or anything. But when I started going back to church, I started going back to church and then experienced a very devastating loss in my personal life. My brother passed away quite suddenly. And I was in a church that just loved on me, and they barely even knew me. And it's so, that community cannot be underrated or overrated. I mean, it cannot be overrated.
Underappreciated. Overrated.
Yes, exactly. There's nothing like it on this side of heaven. There is nothing like it. Awesome. And it's awesome, and it's appreciated.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you guys.
Can you, just as we're wrapping up, can you give people some info on where to get in touch with you all, where to connect?
Absolutely.
Ask questions, maybe get on a call if they're looking to kind of explore some of their options?
Absolutely. A great place to start is our website, www.churchesbydaniels.com. We are also on YouTube and on Facebook. On YouTube, we've got a lot of free resources and education also on our website. There are phone numbers on our website. It's 918-872-6006. If you call and you ask for me, I'd love to talk to you. But there's a whole staff that would just love to pick up that phone and have a chat with you. And again, even if it's not like you're trying to build, but maybe you just have an issue in your facility and you don't know where to go, just call us, and whatever we can do to help, we will.
When you guys produce, I don't know if it's a magazine, a publication, but I assume that's one of your free works. I've read a ton of your art. Like, there's such good content from
thank you.
Real pastors, real projects you guys have done.
Yes. So you can get those for free. We've published 3 magazines now. We did an annual magazine starting in 2020, and we've published them with the intent that it would be just a lot of industry experts, pastors, and insight, so that somebody could go read that magazine, never ever speak to us, and still walk away with valuable information. You can download that for free on our website, or you can call me and I'll send you a physical copy. I'd be happy to.
Well, I love that. I think what I love most is just it's clear the heart that you all have for the church and for ministries. And that really shines through, what you're doing, obviously, in our conversation. So appreciate that, certainly, and appreciate your time being with us.
Yeah, thank you guys for having me. It's been so great to be here.
Yeah, thanks.
This episode of the Church Leadership Lab podcast is brought to you by Ministry Brands, the largest provider of church technology software. Over 90,000 churches rely on Ministry Brands for their single platform solution that brings together all the digital tools a church needs. From online giving to websites to church management software and more, Ministry Brands is leading the way in simple to use, innovative solutions, all with the goal of empowering healthy churches. To learn more, visit ministrybrands.com.